What happens to our children today? The UNESCO report shows that there are so many students that do not have access to quality education because of different needs that are not catered to in the classroom. And this speaks loudly about the extent to which we really need database teaching approach so that it can help us identify all these needs of the students and also accommodate them so that they can have access to the quality of education. And also, it tells more the extent to which this teaching approach is not yet practiced in different parts of the world. What is the problem, or how did we come to this point? So, all the challenges that are associated with data-based approaches that are, first of all, there is limited data sourcing approaches. Like teachers don't have access to how they can access data from students. The other thing is that there is low level of data literacy among teachers. So many teachers do not know how to access these data, and some of them do not even know how to analyze and interpret this data in the context of the classroom. And the other thing is that we have some of the tools that we can use to access data, but they are very complex in the extent that teachers needed to be computer literate to be able to use these tools. For instance, if you think of, let's say, Moodle as one of the teaching and learning management system, you realize that just understanding how many students logged into the platform or how many students were able to access the materials and something like that, it's not easy. It's something that you don't get from the dashboard. And it is from all these challenges that database teaching approach is not practiced as it was expected. And thus, our children are still struggling. And in our project, we have approached these challenges by developing a tool that is very user friendly in the sense that teachers can easily access the data and also interpolate the data so that they can develop the relevant intervention for teachers. And we will be talking more about our tool in the next um, coming sessions. Today, we will talk a little bit about the importance of database teaching approach based on the literature. Well, so why is it database teaching approach important? Database approach is very important in different areas. So one is the area of curriculum. And the area of the curriculum is that database teaching approach helps in content modification and instructional improvement. Another area of importance for database teaching approach is the staff. So through database teaching approach, staff have access to professional skills development. Here it should be understood that many of the teachers, when they start their career, this was one of the approaches that was rare, like it wasn't there in the pre-service training or even some professional training. So by integrating this in the current curriculum, these teachers get the access to professional skills development because they learn new things that they didn't learn before. Another area of importance is the area of students. Through database teaching approach, students' needs are identified and their progress are monitored. Also, they get intervention that match to their needs. In other words, it makes the intervention most relevant and thus facilitating their development. So, we will see in the coming sections and the chapter, sessions for our training, how integrating or practicing database teaching can be used in the curriculum in modifications in the area of staff development and the students, because in the coming session we will be doing it practically. The idea of data or evidence-based teaching approach is that teachers need to understand the needs of the students in the classroom and also try to develop the relevant intervention to accommodate each and everyone in the classroom. This idea is more influenced by so many changes in the current world. One of the changes that our classes have different students coming from diverse environment, and thus they have different needs for learning. And also the educational policies and approach are changing, for instance, from inclusive to mainstream, from special education to inclusive and mainstreaming education. That is to say, previously, students with certain needs were given their own room and their own classes so that they could be supported according to their needs. But recently, with inclusive and the mainstreaming education, is that the teacher is having students with different needs in the same room and thus has to develop the strategies that could accommodate each and every student in the classroom. Also, we are talking about global policies such as universal design, early interventions, and support gender equality. All this requires that there should be a favorable environment almost for every student in the classroom. The other change is the lifestyle. There are a lot of mobilities that people from different areas comes together, and once these families get settled, students who have developed from different environments, then they are going in the classroom with different background, all these things. The media is also giving different experience to students to see the world. Also, the inclusion of technology in the classroom, because of its capability, it also provided room for teachers to do this or to access the information and try to find out how to help. You can see, for instance, here, this is a good example that can describe what we mean and the influence of the current environment. So we have students who are engaging in different activities. And for instance, if you look at the questions that you can use to assess these students, you may understand that these questions could be fair to some of the students and could be unfair to some of the students. And the question could be why? Is because these students don't have the same experience. Even if all of them they are engaging in media, you find that they may be navigating into different platforms and they may be interacting with different experience of the world. So that's why teachers recently are required to develop the skills and the competences to implement data-based teaching approach. That is to say, teachers need to be aware or need to be able to collect information and understand the background of their students, and from there determine the possible ways to support these students' development. One of the important questions that we need to answer is that what kind of competence, or what is the competence, or what are the skills and knowledge that teachers need to have to be able to implement data-based teaching approach. So Friedman et al.'s 2021 proposed the data literacy training model for teachers. And in this framework or in this model, says that our teachers, first of all, need to be able to locate data, and also teachers should be trained how to comprehend and understand the data, and also being able to interpret. But also they should be able to develop knowledge and skills and beliefs so that they can make practice in the classroom, and then through that we get students outcome. Based on this model, we are saying that the teacher's competence for implementing data-based approach will depend on the following. One is that the teacher should be able to locate the data. So that is data locating ability. That is understanding where the data are and which data is important. The other thing that is very important as part of teacher competence, the ability to be able to analyze and interpret the data. Okay, locating the data is one thing, but also being able to analyze and interpret that. That's to say, understanding what the data mean. But the other thing is very important is also positive attitude towards a data-based teaching approach. That is to say, teacher should believe in it, should have positive attitude. For that case, they can be able to practice. Understanding the requirement of all this in our project, we provide teachers not only with the tool to use that can help them locate the data, but also how they can analyze and interpret the data, and also giving them the lectionary for practicing this through which they can develop positive attitude towards database teaching approach. We will be discussing more about how our tool works and how the teachers get engaged in the next discussions. For now, goodbye and see you later on.